Explosions. Chaos. Those heart-wrenching images of conflict flooding our screens. They paint a picture of total lawlessness. A world where, you'd think, no rules could possibly survive. But what if I told you that even in the middle of the most brutal wars, there's an invisible code? A set of laws trying to govern the ungovernable? Stick around, because the truth about rules in war might just blow your mind. It sounds completely backward, doesn't it? War is, by its very nature, destructive. But believe it or not, there are extensive internationally recognized rules about what you can and can't do in armed conflict. This isn't some casual gentleman's agreement. It's a serious body of law called International Humanitarian Law, or IHL for short. Think of it as a worldwide playbook for war. The most well-known parts? The Geneva Conventions. Can you believe it? A whopping 196 countries have signed on, which means almost every nation on Earth is on board with these rules. And it's not just countries. Even non-state armed groups are supposed to respect IHL. So, yeah, even with all the apparent chaos, there is an invisible code. So, what does this invisible code actually say? Well, it's built on a few key ideas. First up, distinction. This one's super important. Everyone involved in a conflict has to tell the difference between fighters and civilians. Attacks can only be aimed at military targets, never intentionally at ordinary people or civilian places like homes, schools, or your local shops. Then there's proportionality. This is all about balance. Even if you're attacking a legitimate military target, the harm to civilians or damage to their property can't be over the top compared to the direct military win you're expecting. It's a constant judgment call to keep collateral damage to a minimum. Military necessity is another big one. This basically says you only use the force you need to achieve a clear military goal. Causing suffering just for the sake of it? Absolutely not allowed. This ties right into humanity, which is the foundation of IHL. It means forbidding any pointless suffering or unnecessary harm. And critically, there's protecting people who are hors de combat. That's French for outside the fight. This means anyone who's not fighting anymore, like wounded or sick soldiers or prisoners of war. They have to be protected and treated humanely. Protecting civilians is a huge part of these rules. It can't be targeted, and warring parties have to do everything they reasonably can to avoid harming them. This protection even covers things essential for their survival like water sources, crops, and livestock, and using civilians as human shields, strictly forbidden. Hospitals, medical workers, and ambulances showing the Red Cross, Red Crescent, or Red Crystal emblems. They're also specially protected and can't be attacked. In fact, the wounded and sick have a right to be cared for, no matter whose side they were fighting on. Now, for a couple of rules that might actually surprise you. Did you know it's a war crime to intentionally destroy food or water supplies? If the main goal is to starve civilians? And how about this? Even insulting prisoners of war can be a violation. The Geneva Conventions are pretty detailed. They aim to protect POWs not just from being physically hurt, but also from threats and verbal abuse. Even pillaging, looting stuff from the battlefield is a crime, though honestly, making sure that rule is followed has always been a bit tricky. The rules of war also put limits on the kinds of weapons and the ways they can be used. We're talking about weapons that inflict serious pain or just seem cruel. It's like chemical and biological weapons or some landmines. But what happens when these rules are broken? Well, violations aren't just given a slap on the wrist. Serious ones are considered war crimes. This includes things like deliberately killing civilians, torture, treating prisoners inhumanly, and intentionally blowing up civilian buildings and infrastructure. And it's not just countries that can be held responsible, individuals can too. This means military commanders, and even political leaders, can face charges in their own country's courts or by international courts, like the International Criminal Court. We've seen major prosecutions for conflicts in places like the former Yugoslavia and Rwanda, and more recently, investigations and charges related to conflicts including those in Ukraine. The whole idea is that even in war, there has to be some accountability. Countries are actually obligated to investigate and prosecute war crimes. It's a heavy subject for sure, and often pretty grim, but just knowing these rules exist is really important. If you found any of this surprising, or if you want to learn more about how global laws try to bring some order to absolute chaos, definitely hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. That way you won't miss our future deep dives into tough topics. So, are there really rules in war? The answer is a definite, and maybe for some, a shocking yes. Now, the reality of conflict often shows these rules being tragically broken, but their existence isn't just a nice idea. International humanitarian law offers a framework. It's designed to limit the horrors of war, protect innocent people, and hold on to a sliver of humanity even when things are at their darkest. The challenge, as it always is, isn't just having the laws written down, but making sure they're applied and enforced consistently, everywhere. But the code is there, a lasting reminder of our shared desire to put some limits on brutality.